God, gods, whatever's out there, I'm at the end of my rope here. I have nothing left to give, nowhere left to go. I'm lost and alone.
You are not alone.
Well, it sure doesn't feel like it. I want to believe someone's out there, but I just can't seem to make myself believe it.
Well, that is your decision and your decision alone. But you should understand what it means to believe, as well as what it means to not believe.
Well then, tell me, please.
In the beginning, I existed. I created the heavens and the earth, and I put their foundations in place. I created everything around you, from the trees to the water to the very air in your lungs. And finally, I created my masterpiece, you, mankind. I formed you out of dust and breathed life into your very lungs. The world was perfect.
Sounds pretty great, but the world I see around me is pretty far from perfect.
I wanted my creation to love me, not because they have to, but because they choose to. I gave them free will and an opportunity to use it. They disobeyed me and cursed humanity to separate from me. The sin they committed, and now each sin after it, drives a wedge between humanity and me, creating a divide that cannot be crossed by man.
But, I'm a pretty good guy. I've done some pretty good stuff, and I'm friends with some pretty good people. It's not like I've done anything too terrible.
Your goodness cannot begin to cover the sin you have committed. Everyone has sinned, and no one can reach me on their own. The first humans were no different. Their acts of sin separated them from me.
Wait, you cursed them to be separate from you because they made a mistake one time? That hardly seems fair. Isn't forgiveness important or whatever?
What you must understand is that I am perfect, and being perfect, I am perfectly just. If I am perfectly just and I allow people who have committed sin to be entered in my presence and be unpunished, I have failed in my position as judge. Do you understand this? If they wanted to have freedom, they would have to be willing to accept the natural consequences.
I suppose I can understand that. It still feels unfair to curse them after just one mistake.
Which is why I gave them the ways to be close to me. For a time, if people had faith in me and allowed my laws, and they gave me sacrifices, their sins would be covered in their faith, and they could be in my presence.
For a time?
Yes, for a time. Their faith was ultimately pointing towards one final sacrifice. However, the sacrifice of my son.
Wait, you have a son?
Jesus. He is my son, and he is my one with me. He has been with me since the beginning, and he became the ultimate sacrifice for everyone else's sin.
Your own son? You sacrificed your own son?
He was willing. He took the price of humanity's wrongdoings and paid them in full with his death and resurrection.
Whoa. There's a bit to unpack there. Resurrection?
Yes, he died with the weight of all the world's sin on his perfect shoulders. And on the third day, he came back from the dead and appeared to many people.
So, he came back from the dead. But what does that mean for me?
It means that your sins are forgiven. Since my son gave his perfect life for you, you are given the gift of forgiveness. All you have to do is accept that gift.
Accept it? What do you mean?
I mean, acknowledge that what I have told you is true. I created the world and everything in it, including you. Humanity failed to sin, separating them off with a gap that could not cross themselves. And then I gave a way forward through my son's sacrifice and resurrection. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe it in your heart that God raised him from death, then you will be saved.
Sounds familiar. So, I can see why I would want to be saved, but I don't 100% understand why you would want to save me. Like I said, I've been a good person. I haven't done anything too bad, but I also haven't done anything all that great. I probably wouldn't save me.
I want to accept my gift of salvation because I love you. You and your fellow man are my most beloved creations. The sin that has driven a wedge between us breaks my heart, and I gave up my own son just to bridge that gap. All because I love you, and I want to spend eternity with you.
So, say I accept this gift. Is that it? Do I just go along my merry way and keep living the way I was living before?
Not quite. You must find other believers, fellowship with them, learn from them, grow with them, be a part of the church.
I'm not so sure I'm too big on the idea of a church. I've had some pretty bad experiences with them in the past.
The church is not some organization or specific building. It is simply my people meeting in worship and prayer to learn about me through fellowship with one another. Many people who have called themselves believers have not acted wrongly in my name, whether through malicious intentions or simply ignorance. However, do not allow this to push you away from other believers. If you are to grow in your faith, you must be surrounded by fellow Christians.
I'm not sure I'm ready to make that kind of commitment yet, but I'm definitely not done thinking about it. And I'll probably be back sometime with some more questions.
And I will always be here, always.